Bombshell new additions to a best-selling 2022 book have revealed future Queen Kate Middleton's steely streak. Courtiers, the hidden power behind the crown, looks back to that now infamous palace statement written in response to Meghan Markle's accusation of racism against the monarchy. Author Valentine Low, the journalist who broke the Meghan Markle bullying scandal, writes that Kate was even firmer than husband William in her insistence that recollections may vary line be included in any public response. An insider source revealed it was Kate who clearly made the point history will judge this statement, and unless this phrase or a phrase like it is included, everything that they have said will be taken as true. So I'm fascinated to know what you think about this. Was Kate right to insist the royal family fought back against Meghan's untrue claims of racism?
Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So I came across this interesting panel discussion where they're discussing how Catherine was the one behind recollections may vary. She didn't write it, but she's the one who fought for it to remain in the statement because apparently they wanted to remove it because it came across too confrontational, I guess. But she's the one who said, no, let's keep that line in there because there has to be some evidence of pushback. There has to be some sort of refuting of these claims. Otherwise, people are going to take it at face value. If we just say, you know, we love Meghan and Harry, they're a part of this family, and this is a private matter, there's nothing in there that refutes any of their claims, and it basically leads people to conclude that they were telling the truth. Oh, another thing I noticed from this discussion is that there are people who would defend Meghan and Harry no matter what. And I think this is all related to race. Even the BLM activist Aman has now come out and denounced Harry and Meghan. She said they weaponize race or weaponize black people.
What they need to do is ditch the negative message, stop complaining. It goes down really badly if you're living in a $14 million house in the middle of a cost of living crisis to be complaining all the time.
Well, what else can they talk about?
Well, they got to go back to the old school royal playbook, turn up to charity, looking fantastic, working
No, they need to go away. I do apologise for interjecting. They just need to go away. Let's be honest with ourselves here. They got themselves in this mess. Let's talk about ourselves for 3 years, but then simultaneously say we want privacy. It's that dichotomy that's got them in this position. They need to go away. Go silent.
And that's exactly what they do. So if she can see it, I don't really see why no one else can see it. You have to put aside all of the emotive issues and just look at things logically. Yes, people get very heated when it comes to issues pertaining to race. It's a very sensitive topic, but that doesn't mean it should cloud your judgment. And I feel that's what's going on with one of the panel guests here. So let's take a look.
I'm joined by the editor-at-large for the Mail on Sunday, Charlotte Griffiths, and the social commentator, Joanna Jarjue. Charlotte, Kate has been proven to be right, hasn't she? Because those farcical claims from Meghan were lies, and we now know they were lies.
Yeah, because recent interviews that Prince Harry's given, he's actually backtracked and said, well, I wasn't saying that they're racist. I was saying that there was unconscious bias. But either way, you know, there wasn't racism there. And of course, they had to release a statement disputing that because never complain, never explain works unless you're accused of something incredibly serious like racism. And if you're not racist, you have to hit back at that. And good on Kate, because she's really starting to emerge as a queen in waiting, because she obviously laid down the law on that one.
People are happy to hear that Catherine was behind it, like Catherine fought to keep that line in because it is important. And if that wasn't in there, people would just be thinking, oh yeah, they released a generic statement and you know, they never spoke about it after that, or they never denied the claims, you know, or confirmed the claims. They just released a generic statement. But recollections may vary is a way of denying the claims politely. It's a way of saying they're full of it.
Joanna Jarjue, Kate was right, wasn't she? She knew that the royal family wasn't racist. She knew that Meghan was just peddling a whole load of lies in front of the world. And so it was really important to include that line, recollections may vary.
Well, first of all, in Meghan and Harry's Oprah interview, they'd never actually said the word racism. They talked about actually skin colour, yes. And when Harry had a first opportunity to clarify exactly what he meant in his interviews leading up to Spare, he did just that. And he specified that he felt that it was unconscious bias. How the media...
Oh, Joanna, that was 2 years later. Joanna... Joanna, 2 years later. In that time, let me just remind you, because it's very important, Prince Philip died and the late Queen Elizabeth II died. He waited 2 years.
And he knew exactly what he was doing. Concerns and conversations about how dark my baby was going to be. What? That's racism. You don't need to use the word, and she knows it, I know it, we all know it. And since then, did they not receive an award for fighting structural racism within the royal family? Did they not receive an award for that? Did they not receive an NAACP award for, work within social justice or something to that effect? Again, indicating that they exposed racism within the royal family. That's the name they made for themselves. People who exposed racism within the royal family. They absolutely did accuse the royal family of being racist, and to claim otherwise is from the gaslighting handbook, if you ask me. They knew exactly what they were doing. It backfired because they, till this day, have not produced any proof or any evidence or named the person. Or they worded it in a way, they take a little bit of truth. We know they do this. They've taken something that could be completely innocent, which is, I wonder what the baby is going to look like. Perhaps that's what it was, and twisted it to sound as if it was concerns and conversations about how dark my baby is going to be. And again, like Dan has said, they waited 2 years. During the Oprah interview, though, as soon as the interview finished, did they not call up Oprah or Gayle King and say, oh, we just want to clarify, we're not talking about Prince Philip and the Queen? That shows you they knew they were throwing people under the bus. They knew they were making serious accusations, but they don't want to appear heartless because Prince Philip was on his deathbed and the Queen was very elderly and frail and, dealing with health issues herself.
Before he corrected the record.
Well, actually, unconscious bias, really, by fact, is a form of racism. So whether Harry wanted to kind of specifically specify exactly what he meant by using those words.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing anyway. But he thinks he can hide behind that terminology and pretend that he never claimed racism. It's like when people use, I always say this, the term microaggression, that's popular now. Unconscious bias. People weren't using language like this until 2020, around that time. Again, it's a way for people to accuse others of racism without any evidence, without any proof, so they can face the backlash. But when they're vindicated, you can turn around and say, oh no, I never accused that person of racism. Nobody came away from the Oprah interview thinking, ooh, that royal family, they're really unconsciously biased. Everybody who watched it came away either believing the royal family are a bunch of racists or they're being accused of racism. And we need more evidence. Nobody came away thinking unconscious bias. Absolutely ridiculous. You don't have to use the word racism or unconscious bias to make the claim of racism.
Or not, to insist this. I was very, surprised to hear this actually, because I'm just trying to figure out from the Cambridge's camp what we're supposed to believe about Kate. What narrative are we supposed to believe? Are we supposed to believe, is it that butter wouldn't melt, Kate wouldn't hurt a fly, and Kate follows protocol, and Kate's just in the shadows? Or is it that actually behind the scenes, Kate is quite a forceful character? And maybe some of the things that have been revealed about Kate are actually quite realistic based on what we've heard today.
I'm sorry, but standing up for yourself does not make you the aggressor. At some point, a person is going to have to stand up for themselves and their family. That doesn't now make them the bad guy.
I know a little bit about this, okay, because I was covering this story for a long time. I've reported on Kate and William for a long time. Kate is very clear that publicly she wants William to take the lead. She actually feels very threatened in lots of circumstances. She's a really shy person and she very much believes that her husband should take the lead. But behind the scenes, she plays an incredibly important role, especially because there are times when William is really vulnerable. And Charlotte Griffiths, I believe you have some exclusive information about just how hard that period was for William and how much Kate had to be there for him. So talk to me a little bit about William, what William was going through there, Charlotte, because we haven't heard much about that.
Yeah, so what I found quite surprising was that I've heard for a long time now from many different sources that in the lead up to that Oprah interview, William was quite literally sick with worry. He was not eating, he became kind of not reclusive, but he definitely was hiding away. He'd gone to a royal residence for a period of time to just cut himself off from the world. And he was just in bits, basically. And
you can imagine if that's the toll it took on William, a young, healthy man. Can you imagine the impact it had on the elderly Queen, the late Queen, who was very elderly, and Prince Philip, who was practically on his deathbed? Can you imagine the impact it had on them?
what Kate was doing was Kate was standing by her man. Kate was like, I've got to stick up for this guy. I've got to protect him. He's being destroyed by this. And that probably made her quite steely, even though she's got this reputation for being shy. I mean, when it comes to protecting her husband, she's going to step in there.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter how shy you are. It doesn't matter how quiet or even timid you are. When you are on the defense, it brings out something in you. When it's time to protect your family, your husband, your children, that's going to bring out the fighter in you. And Kate is very much a supporting role for William. We don't see her walk in front of her husband, push past him to make sure she's the first to greet people. We don't see her hold his hand and stop him from walking off. Or when he's having a conversation, go up to him and, urge him to move away in the middle of a conversation. How rude. When she first joined the royal family, she didn't say much. She was very quiet. She wasn't much of a public speaker. She wasn't much of a look at me type of person. But she's grown into the role. It's been 12 years now? So she's grown into the role. And plus she's over 40. And when you get to a certain age, you're not going to let people step all over you. At some point, she's going to come out of her shell and become more formidable. That's natural. And that doesn't make her turn around and now make her the aggressor. No.
And protect him, just like Meghan Markle does over Prince Harry the whole time.
Joanna, you must hear that and feel huge sympathy for William and understand why it was
See, she don't care. She don't feel any sympathy for him.
necessary for him to stand up for his family as a future king.
I mean, look, everybody has the right to give their side of the story, whether it's through a statement via the Queen or whether it's via a Oprah interview. I believe in everybody being able to speak their truth to an extent. What I don't get is why it is that now we're getting peddled this narrative of Kate being so strong and Kate being the person who insists this, but then at the same time believing that it was Meghan who made Kate cry and Kate's so sensitive and it was Meghan who rules the roost. If Kate is in a position where she has that much influence to be able to give feedback on a speech that the Queen is giving to the British public, that just shows you how much influence she actually had behind the scenes. And actually, for a lot of Meghan and Harry supporters, it's a lot easier now to believe that some people from the Cambridge's camp were briefing against the Sussexes, and actually that Kate did have a lot more of a voice and wasn't as much of a victim against Meghan as what we've been led to believe.
The Queen had a lot of health issues in the latter years of her life. So I can imagine that other senior members of the royal family stepped up their game to support the Queen. Rather than her stressing about every aspect of the statement, perhaps they took more of a lead role in getting the statement out there. I can imagine that happening, considering that she was elderly and she was dealing with health issues. The other members of the royal family would have stepped up, and perhaps that's what was going on. And Meghan and Harry basically have a PR machine behind them, from Sunshine Sachs to the new PR company they're with now. They put out puff piece after puff piece. We've all been inundated with it. They have a propaganda machine behind them. They've had that from day one. As soon as they left the royal family, we never heard the end of it. They always address criticism, address, rumours, or put out rumours in their favour. They want people talking about them, clearly, because they won't stop putting out these annoying puff pieces till this day. And then they have their mouthpiece, Scooby-Doo, who puts out information too, while they claim not to know who he is. The same person who happened to put out information during the time of mourning about where the Queen's body was going to go next, saying that she was going to be taken from Scotland on the royal train to the UK. not knowing that for some reason he doesn't know that Scotland is in the UK, saying, you know, information like that. Where did he get that information from? Inaccurate information, by the way, that was probably put out there as a little test. And lo and behold, he happens to come out with it. So there's somebody leaking information to him. I wonder who that could be. So they do this all the time. They leak information. They don't even have social media accounts. But for some reason, they always happen to have pictures posted on other people's Instagram accounts or Twitter or whatever. They always happen to have a photo put out there, claiming that it's, you know, a spontaneous photo that someone just happened to post. So all this talk of the royal family putting out information and answering back is nothing but projection, because that's exactly what Harry and Meghan do. I do hear articles come out from time to time where they say sources from the palace. You know, I do hear that from time to time. And I'm glad when articles like that come out, because it does refute some of the claims that, you know, Harry and Meghan have made, some of the lies that have been put out there. What you're not going to see are statements that are confrontational, that directly accuses people of lying. That's what you're not going to see. So in light of having to keep up with certain rules and protocols, they are in a position where they can't defend themselves like the rest of us can.
Charlotte, how do you respond to that?
This is actually an own goal for Cambridges.
I think
it's an own goal for Cambridges.
No,
unlike Meghan, Kate is very sparing with her influence, and so she uses it as and when it was necessary, and also when positive.
Yes.
So really, she is kind of quite passive behind the scenes, but she watches her husband. Literally, he couldn't eat for a week before the Oprah interview, and she watches that, and it kind of spurs her on every once in a while to sort of lay down the law. But she's not doing it the whole time and making a big scene the whole time.
Sorry, can I just say something very quickly? I think it's very... Sorry, can I just say something very quickly? I think it's very interesting that when Prince Harry sits there and says, I watched my wife near suicidal and I had to do something about it, then it's, oh, Meghan's making it up, Harry's making it up. And then that's the narrative with them. But when Kate is insisting that something should be in a statement and actually influencing what the Queen says to the British public, then it's, oh, Kate had to be there for William. We need to pick a side.
Joanna, come on, Joanna.
How is addressing something that allegations made about you, claims made about you, standing up for yourself, how is that the same as making up lies? And taking people's trauma, which, you know, could include racism, dealing with thoughts of taking your life, taking traumatic subjects like that and exploiting them for your own gain. That's disgraceful. And that's what Harry and Meghan do. In the whole interview itself, there were at least 17 provable lies. So if people come out and say, I don't believe her, is it any surprise? Stop lying. Then maybe people will take your word more seriously. And then after all of that, they said they never wanted to leave.
Think about this for 1 second. Meghan and Harry have had every opportunity publicly to state their case, and they have been gutless because they know it is impossible for William and Kate to do so. So come on, you can hardly say that including 3 words in a statement is some sort of aggressive act. You're trying to make out Kate as some sort of bully.
Dan, don't put words into my mouth. I did not use that word whatsoever.
Well, that's what you're hinting at.
Let's be serious. Let's be serious. Acting as if William and Kate are completely gagged. They're clearly not. They're Kate Middleton had the influence inside the palace to change a line in the Queen's speech. And you're acting as if these people can't speak whatsoever when there's something that's out there in the press that they don't like.
She's not some random person off the street. She's going to be the Queen herself one day. So again, I'm sure it's just a matter of senior members of the royal family stepping up to support the Queen at the time. And you don't have to use the word bully, just like Harry didn't have to use the word racism to infer something.
Very quick to correct it. And the difference here and where the unconscious bias was between towards Meghan was that when things were incorrect about Meghan, they were never willing to correct it. So to act as if Kate and William were completely gagged, oh, they can't speak, but Meghan and Harry can do Oprah. Yes, maybe not to that extent, but they always have the opportunity, and this just proves it. And it just proves how much of a voice Kate actually has in the background. So really, it's revealed.
Okay, final word to you, Charlotte. Final word to you, Charlotte. Charlotte, final word.
And Meghan and Harry were dishing out lengthy corrective statements every 5 minutes when they were in the palace.
And going to court over it.
They weren't sort of sitting there silently. They were constantly correcting, and the palace were putting those statements out for them. And, you know, they stood up for them millions of times.
Okay. Charlotte
Prince
Griffiths.
Harry had to go out of his way.
Joanna Jarjue. Thank you both so much.
Like I said, there are people who would defend Meghan no matter what because of race. I feel they feel obliged to do so, and that's why Meghan played the race card when previously she identified as a, regular white woman. Based on her school friends saying that they didn't even know she was mixed race, she never told them. Her agent that she had right up until, throughout Suits, said that he didn't know she was mixed race. And then when she came to the UK, they were celebrating that a member of the royal family is marrying somebody who is biracial. She turns around and says, oh, they treated me like a black woman. I was never treated like a black woman, before I went to the UK. When really they were celebrating the modernising of the monarchy, that for some reason, still, black women in particular feel obliged to defend Meghan no matter what. And I wonder if she would defend them in the same way. Probably not, unless it suits her and benefits her in some way. That's my opinion though. So let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. Take care of yourselves, and God willing, I will see you in the next video.